We are joined by Dr. Steve Pieczenik for the next 50 minutes, stevepieczenik.com. He's a medical doctor and a board-examining psychiatrist, and, of course, held the rank, basically a colonel when he was in the Navy, did a lot of secret operations he can't get into, helped found Delta Force with General Boykin, and, of course, ran PSYOPs for the State Department and advised the U.S. Army. And, of course, he is a composite character, the Jack Ryan character. Nobody probably knows who that is nowadays. From the Patriot games, and wrote a bunch of books with Tom Clancy. He has a new book that he advised on that just came out as well. And he's also has a medical company that he never talks about. I'm going to talk about that at the bottom of the hour and take your phone calls. I know we have callers left over from before. Pieczenik can talk about anything. Just address your comment or question at him for those first bank of callers. I'm going to do another bank of callers specifically for Pieczenik, 800-259-9231. Trained in psychiatry at Harvard University and international relations at MIT. His novels are based on over 20 years' experience resolving international crises. He's a top hostage negotiator for the Department of State and for four administrations. And he's, of course, been a member of the Council on Foreign Relations. And he came on my show back in 2002. And said that 9/11 was an inside job and that bin Laden was dead and their government was financing radical Muslims and letting us attack us and ordering stand-downs. The CFR called up threatening him at the time. And I remember he called me and goes, yes, they're visiting me. Yes, they're very upset. That transcript, oh, boy, I guess leave it up, but what do you think? And, well, the rest is history. And then basically stuff he's covered on the air has been attacked by Stratford, which, again, is an admitted CIA echo chamber. Because the CIA is not supposed to be involved in domestic propaganda. They made it legal this year, but before that, they used Stratford for that, which overall, Stratford promotes, guns and some freedom issues, so at least they're not communist in their ideology. But as a CIA tentacle, I'm not even saying they're the worst thing out there, but, they do criticize me for no reason, because I don't believe they're baloney on bin Laden. But Dr. Pieczenik joins us. He was on Sunday for just 2 segments and was just dropping bombshell after bombshell. I want you to talk to us like we're 5 years old, Dr. Pieczenik, because whenever you're talking, I can tell you're talking to the establishment. And that's important to have that conduit. But there are different groups in the establishment, obviously. So talk about the different power structures that are there, the good, the bad, the ugly, the different mafias that are there, the different combines that are there in your well-researched view. And then describe to us how you see the battlefront, the battle space. Will they pull a false flag to make Obama look like an angel and pull his bacon? Because he's falling apart so fast. What's going on with Russia? I know you're an expert on that and don't like the Ruskies. And the whole Ukraine situation and this gas pipeline. All of it with Dr. Steve Pieczenik right now. And then we'll go to Bill in Thailand and everybody else that's holding. Renee in Canada, Douglas in Idaho, Daniel in Colorado, Wayne in Texas. All right, Doc, there's my long hypomanic introduction to you. You've got the floor now. Tell us, please answer the question. What are the real power structures? Who are the power players in your view? And who are the good, the bad, and the ugly?
Well, the real power structure always goes behind what Stalin once said. The power of the gun is what determines the viability of the power structure. That's pretty crude, but it is very real, even in a republic. And remember, we are in a republic. I want to congratulate everybody who's a veteran. But basically, the power structure in America is what Eisenhower said, the military-industrial complex, as evidenced by the following. First, it's the military with its numerous generals, admirals, and all kinds of senior officials, whom we do not need now. We are downsizing our military. We should be downsizing, but we're not. In fact, we have more generals and admirals than we had in World War II, where George Marshall, the most brilliant of all strategists, created 2 wars in 2 different arenas, the Pacific and Europe, where we won 2 wars. Since that time, as a comment about our military, we have lost every major war. As General Boykin has said, who was the head of Special Forces and with whom I've worked with, we have not won a battle since 1944 in the Battle of the Bulge. That's a very serious indictment of our military. But at the same time, we have a new breed of military leaders, the likes of which we have not seen before. Many of them, like Keith Alexander, General Petraeus, many others have PhDs as well as multiple degrees in strategic analysis and in cyber war. We're coming into a new era where the gun, the missile, and even the ICBM and the B-52 and the old triad of power that we used to run from the White House under the Nixon, Ford, Reagan administration, the triad of the bombers, the ICBMs, nuclear submarines. The only one left is the nuclear submarine, and that's been supplanted by really cyber war. And the man who brought it to the forefront in the power structure was really quite formidable, Dr. Keith Alexander, or General Keith Alexander, who's been correctly reprimanded for overreaching his own mandate, but he's done that in the attempt to really understand how far the national security agency can reach. Now, having said that, a major power would probably be within the national security agency, 16 or 15 other intelligence groups, including the civilian CIA. Now, I have been a fan of the old CIA, where you had people who came out of the OSS, men like Paul Redman, Jim Lilly, Don Gregg, and others who really came in because they wanted to be dedicated to America. But unfortunately, over the past 20 to 30 years, the CIA, a civilian organization, became a paramilitary organization, co-opted part of the military units through an office called the Special Operations Low Intensity Conflict Office, or SOLIC, and took in special forces where they asked them to take off their ranks and basically put them in paramilitary organizations. General Dennis Blair and others like myself and other generals feel that this is no longer appropriate. We need our special forces under total command of the military.
And isn't that a coup of the republic system that George Washington set up in 1776 when he founded the Army, which then they immediately then go to the mercenaries and make them the new rock stars, up front paying them a bunch, now they don't as much, to suck everyone out of the old republic system into their new private army, which can then be spun off to foreign corporations, and you basically have a soft coup.
Well, that's correct. What's happened in effect over the period since 9/11, the most famous stand down and the one that should receive kudos, and I know Alex is very private about it. He really does deserve the kudos for broadcasting what was a significant message that this was a stand down and a false flag. Since that time, we haven't had that. We've had deception, denial, and distortion. But the most important false flag we've had in the 21st century was the 9/11 one, and America's trying to. Now, what happened as a result of that is Cheney, who had never served in the military and refused to serve 11 times when he was drafted, yet I and others who were drafted the first time went in, this coward or chicken hawk, Cheney, sent our boys into harm's way in Iraq and Afghanistan, knowing fully well that they were going into getting killed for no reason whatsoever. So we've been in wars that we don't really need. Korea, Vietnam, Iraq, Afghanistan.
We've had a complex
war on terror. I'm sorry?
So we've had a military-industrial complex that purely was about profit, even if it undermined the overall interest of the United States. That sounds like killing the golden goose. Even if I was a sociopathic globalist making billions, I would not want to undermine my main command base.
Well, you're correct, Alex. The key issue now for America, and why I'm very positive about America, and even more positive about our military, but American citizens have to put a brake on what's called the military-industrial complex. General Eisenhower was clearly a formidable leader, but he was also a formidable American who was a very down-to-earth individual who said, look, if we don't watch our military-industrial complex, we will erode the basis of the republic. What is happening now and why we have to be careful is that the republic has turned into an empire. The empire is out of control. With 783 bases in 223 countries, we are fighting no one. And actually, we have a Navy that should be denying access to the Chinese. That's probably the legitimate national security concern we have in South China, which is being negotiated now. Other than that, we have no real interest in other countries. ISIS is not a major concern for us. Israel is not a major concern for us. The Middle East is not a major concern. We are a formidable net exporter of oil and gas. As a result of that, we have, because of our entrepreneurial skills and ingenuity, we have been a net exporter of oil and now gas. We do not need Saudi Arabia. We do not need any Middle Eastern country to supply oil or gas. And in turn, they cannot manipulate the price that we decide to lower. And we keep lowering the price of gas and oil down from 100 Brent oil to 80 Brent oil, and probably will bring it down to what the Canadians have, which is $50 a barrel of Brent oil. My suspicion is we will have the Keystone Pipeline going all the way from Alberta down through Texas. And the reason for that is because Canada needs to export its shale gas oil through that pipeline, and we have been a very good partner to Canada.
And why would George Soros be trying to block that key pipeline? Is he how in bed is he with the Chinese?
Obama is not very well in bed with the Chinese. I really have to give him credit. The Chinese are basically deciding two things. One, they're putting into position, and they're saying to all of their neighbors, primarily Vietnam, which, by the way, after 30 years has been our strongest ally in Southeast Asia, we are going to be parking our military in Vietnam. We officially don't have bases there because we don't want to...
yeah, for those that don't know, China's been attacking Vietnam, and people think it's weird that we're teamed up with Vietnam now. They've been fighting the Chinese for 500 years, and that's why they didn't want us there. It was always stupid to go there. Is anybody that tries to go there, they fight them. And it's just how bizarre now that you're about to, have these... And why is China making statements like, we may take Philippine islands, we may take Japanese islands? Why are they escalating the rhetoric, and what does this gas deal mean with Putin? And then let's segue into Russia.
Okay, the issue why China is talking as loudly as they are, they have it for internal consumption, not for external. China right now is not capable of manning an effective fleet against our own fleet. We have, in effect, our CINCPAC, or Commander-in-Chief of the Pacific, has denied access to the most important straits of water straits, which is the Straits of Malacca, where trade goes through, and 80% of the trade is protecting Chinese boats. So if you really want to look at the paradox of the situation, our Navy protects Chinese boats to do free trade into Southeast Asia. The second part is Vietnam is the only country that has defeated 5 countries, including France, Japan, China twice, and the United States. And they have no animosity to us because they realize that we came in there not as exploiters or as colonialists, but basically as an opportunity, and we left, as opposed to the French, whom they really hate. Now, what happened to China is Putin, because we are decreasing the price of oil, and then effectively we are in an economic war. Let this be understood. This is not by chance, nor was Gorbachev correct about saying this is a new Cold War. This is not a new Cold War. Gorbachev knows that he was taken down because we were effective in both the Bush administration and the Reagan administration, and I must give credit to Bush Sr., who was exemplary in really running the operations against the Soviet Union. Let me repeat it again. Reagan gets proper credit, but the person who does not get proper credit and should be lauded for what was done in the Soviet Union and against the Soviet is George H.W. Bush, 41, and James Baker, Secretary of State. These are two exceedingly modest men from Texas who have never asserted their rightful place in the history of the takedown of the Soviet Union. They were the implementers. They were the ones who provided the overall oversight over my strategy and tactics that were developed at the RAND Corporation, then incorporated by the CIA and the military intelligence. And we effectively took down the Soviet Union against their economic variables, their military variables, and their religious. Never underestimate that we are a Christian society, a Judeo-Christian society, where Pope John was very effective at bringing together 1 million Polish Catholics on the border of Russia to basically say religion is not dead, and we will stimulate that religion of Greek Orthodox or Russian Orthodox in the Soviet Union, and that was the beginning of the end of the Soviet Union. So contrary to what Gorbachev would like to believe, or anybody else would like to believe, this was really a group effort on behalf of the CIA, the military intelligence, Bush Sr., Reagan, and Baker, who really carried through an immense amount of heavy-duty work with multiple coordinates involved in the economic, military, even music we used to show that we could break up the apparatchiks, which we used to rock and roll, believe it or not, and religion. So we're not entering a new Cold War. What's happening is, because we are a formidable country, and I think everybody should recognize it and enjoy it to this moment, we have created envy. Envy in this world means that the Russians historically have never been able to equal what we have done, despite the fact that we have taken down twice their repressive regimes. And probably Putin will leave within time because he can no longer manage an economic system that's based on the market economy.
Sure. Doc, let's shift gears for a moment. After you finish on Russia, get into, though, the awakening, the moving back to the States, the liberty movement, what you think is positive, because I see a lot of positive stuff, But the corporate globalist interests that are using the United States like its evil